If you've ever felt like a failure as a man, this video is for you. Coming to you again, raw, unfiltered. I don't care. I want to get this message out to people because I think it's important to get this message out to people. I was staring down the barrel of a gun. Not literally, but figuratively. Everything was going wrong. And my business was in the toilet for the time being. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I had blown up my last couple of romantic relationships. I was still getting into vices. I was still struggling with pornography. I was still struggling with paying my bills. I didn't know where my next check was going to come from. I didn't have really much going on in terms of getting back into a job or a relationship or things like that. Everything was falling apart from under me. And as men, we have this illusion of control that we like to put out there for the world to see. We're the ones that have it all together or whatever. And in that moment, I felt one thing and one thing only. And I think a lot of men, or every man, if we're being honest, has felt this once or twice before, if not more times throughout the span of their life, which is they feel like a failure. And they feel like a failure because as men, we're supposed to have everything, quote unquote, together all the time, whatever that means. We're supposed to be the man with the plan, the one who has all the things lining up for them all the time, the ones who have all of their elements in their life perfectly aligned at all times, show no weakness, show no vulnerability, show no emotion, don't ask for help, because if you do so, that makes you weak, that makes you a coward, that makes you less of a man in some way, if you don't have everything together all the time. And we have felt this way because of a lot of reasons. I think it's a pressure we put on ourselves as men. It's a pressure we put on ourselves from cultural standards, from seeing fake people on social media say things that fake people on social media say, do things that we want to do. But inside, we're always fighting a war within ourselves. We're always fighting that war that says, you're not good enough, that you don't measure up to some invisible standard that you set for yourself, that, no one's ever going to love you if you don't bring X, Y, or Z to the table, that you are never going to be able to be loved by a woman if you don't make a certain amount of money or have a certain sense of stability all the time in your life, or if you don't, give this much to your church, or if you aren't in this type of physical shape, whatever the case might be. And unfortunately, what that does is it aligns all of our focuses to one central thing, which is pleasing other people, which is the kiss of death for all men who do this for a very, very extended period of time. Because when you align everything to pleasing other people instead of improving yourself as a man, when something breaks, everything breaks. It's Murphy's Law. When something can go wrong, something will go wrong. And when you take your agency outside of yourself, when you put it on one thing, and you don't put it on several others, and you don't put it on just you getting better, you improving, you becoming a better person as a man, and you put it on this outside validation, this quote unquote being a failure as a man, you will be a failure as a man because you are living by the standards of the outside world. You're not living by the standards that you set for yourself. So for me, for example, I felt like I had let everybody down. I felt that I had failed as a man, as what I was quote unquote supposed to be for the rest of the world. I felt like I wasn't a man. I felt like I wasn't enough for everybody. And therefore, I had plunged myself down into the abyss and not knowing how to get myself out of it. So in a moment of weakness, maybe, I don't even know if that's the proper word for it, but in a moment of just pure desperation, that's probably a better way to put it, I remember I called my dad. And my dad is the person I look up to most of my life. That will never stop, ever. I don't see it changing anytime soon because it has no reason to, because my dad's incredible. And I remember I called my dad and I said what I felt. And I'm very lucky that I get to do that. And I said, Dad, I feel like a failure. Dad, I feel like a fuck up. Dad, I feel like a loser. Dad, I feel like I've let you down. I've let Mom down. I've tarnished our family name. I've done all the things wrong that I feel like could have gone wrong. I failed in every way that you've set me up for. I've wasted, I've squandered everything that you've poured into me throughout my entire life. And I'm so sorry. And what he said to me was a very, very big paradigm shifting moment for me, because what my dad said to me was, did you fail yourself? Do you feel like a failure because you think you're a failure, or do you feel like a failure because other people feel like you're a failure? Because I don't think you're a failure at all. Sure, you didn't do what I thought you were going to do. Sure, you didn't do what I did. Sure, you didn't do what a lot of other people do. But what he told me was that you've chosen for yourself a life you want to live. And you're just going through the normal trials and tribulations of what everyone else goes through. The going through things part of life doesn't change for anybody. It might change on the context, depending on what you do for work, how you go about living your life, where you live, what your religion you practice, etc. But the universality of going through challenges, trials, and tribulations, feeling like a failure, that doesn't change. But what does change is your ability to localize that feeling of a failure inside of yourself and to see that you're actually probably doing better than you think and you're not a failure. And a lot of people, a lot of men feel like failures because not what they think, not what the people they love think, but ironically, and I think this is actually a very sad thing, what people who don't care about them at all think. And I think men need to hear this, because if you don't set the drive for your life, if you don't set the internal standard for your life, someone else is going to. This is why I'm so big on values all the time, because if you don't set your own values, your own trajectory for your life, you will follow someone else's value system. It is not an if thing. It is a when thing. You will follow someone else's value system. So if you don't lay that foundation down now, you will be suckered into following someone else's value system in the future sooner rather than later. And that includes what you measure yourself as a quote unquote success by. So when people say, and when you say, when that toxic narrative gets in your head of, I failed as a man, did you fail as a man? Or did you fail what other people said you should be as a man? Manhood is not a universal thing. There are universal laws of men, sure. There's something that masculinity can provide to the world that is a general good thing. But that diversity of what success criteria means for yourself, for your family, and for the people you love, that is the most important thing. So if you feel like a failure, ask yourself this question. Did you fail by your own standards, or did you fail by the standards of people who you don't give a shit about? If you ask yourself that question, you'll probably come to an answer very, very quickly. And it'll probably be an answer that you'll like, because you're probably not a failure. You didn't fail as a man. Trust me, I've been there, and I know you've been there. You'll get through it, you'll win, and you'll be better. I promise you. You're not a failure. You're not worthless. You're a man. You're a person. And you deserve that respect. So give yourself that respect.